Hi folks, welcome back to Tread Out of Time, and this week we are exploring one of London's lesser known museums. It is a chiller, more friendly version of the Natural History Museum, although they probably wouldn't like that description, and they have a giant walrus. I am of course talking about the Horniman Museum located in Forest Hill. So let's get started. What are we covering in this museum? I'm going to be taking you through my thoughts on this, looking at some of the controversies surrounding the museum, as well as showing you some of the cool exhibits they have. This is a free museum and it's one of London's hidden gems, and I would 100% recommend you going and popping in and seeing this museum. So, hi, I'm Harry, I'm a London tour guide, I run Tread Out of Time, and it's my aim to take you along to show you the history, culture, music and top attractions of London, so you can then go out and experience it for yourself. If you do like any of those things, please make sure you subscribe and share this video. Anyway, enough of me chatting about that, let's get on with the video and explore the Horniman Museum. Getting to the Horniman Museum is really quite easy. It's located on the Orange Line, the Overground Line, and trains run from both London Bridge and Canada Water, and it really doesn't take very long to get there at all. It's also on the South Circular, so getting there by car or by bus is also really easy. There are some really amazing artifacts here, and the museum, or the free part of the museum, is divided into two main sections, one on anthropology and one on natural history. Then there are the paid for sections and exhibitions that you have to pay to, which include the butterfly rooms and an aquarium, which I didn't visit on my trip. The natural history section of this museum is amazing. It's full of so many different fossils and pieces of taxidermy. The most shocking and most striking and the main attraction of this museum is the giant walrus located in the centre of the room. To our annoyance, this poor walrus didn't even have a name. However, it does have its own Twitter account, so you can be checking it out and looking at where it goes on its travels when it visits other museums, such as when the walrus took a trip down to Margate. The other section is the anthropology section. This has over 80,000 different exhibits from around the world and showcases cultures and societies from parts of the world which often have either been overlooked or not looked into enough. And the Horniman Museum takes pride and takes exception to shine a light on those which are often excluded from other local and national museums. And this is all told through different artifacts such as pottery, textiles, painting, musical instruments, and what I think is my favourite parts of it are the performance masks. So the history of the museum is deep and controversial. It was first opened in 1890 as the Surrey House Museum before becoming the Horniman Museum in 1901, and it was named after a gentleman called Frederick Horniman. He was a Liberal MP, he was a philanthropist, he'd spent a lot of money in the UK of trying to help what he saw as the deserving poor. However, like many of the late Victorian elites, his money and his power and his wealth was located in the spoils of empire and his father's business, which he took over in the tea industry. And unfortunately, the tea industry is not a nice thing. It's not a nice cup of tea. It is an industry that led to huge amounts of famine. It was a cash crop. So for example, colonialists would go over to India, and instead of planting crops that local people relied on for food, they turned the fields into huge amounts of tea production. Obviously, tea cannot be eaten, it does not provide sustenance, and these cash crops were grown and exported at the expense of the local population. And without enough agricultural farming land for food produce, that is what led to huge numbers of famines in countries such as India. So that part of the history needs to be considered. Horniman himself made his money that way, and it was that money which led to his philanthropic work in the UK and led to the creation of this museum. And credit to the museum, it does not shy away from this history on its website, and you can go and find out a wealth of information about that over there. It's also important to note that the anthropology and natural history collections were expanded at the height of the Victorian era of colonisation and empire. Members of the elite of society would go overseas as explorers, as colonialists, and would want to collect the spoils of empire to take back to museums to show off how superior they were to other cultures and show off animals that they had managed to hunt down and all of these exotic things they'd managed to gather from around the world. And this museum is of no exception there. Yes, some would argue it was to do with education, but I really do think that the primary purpose of these museums when they were first created was as a way to show off the spoils of empire. We see that with the Great Exhibition and things like that too. However, today it does provide the purpose of education and takes on the really modern approach to anthropology. But remember, the British Empire was something that was built on both social Darwinism and white supremacy, and the collecting of artifacts from around the world is a reflection of that, and that cannot be really forgotten. But it reveals so much stuff about Britain's uncomfortable and unpleasant colonial past, which is really, really important. However, if you'd like to learn more about the British Empire, I would recommend Akala's Natives as a great book to start. If you want to know about the British Empire in India, I would recommend Inglorious Empire by Shashi Tharoor, which is a really, really excellent book. I'll make sure I link to both of those in the description below. So once you've finished looking around the museum, what I would recommend you doing is exploring the gardens. The Horniman Gardens are absolutely beautiful. It's a great place for a picnic. Also, it provides an absolutely superb view over the City of London. It would be a really lovely place to watch a sunset from. Also, the surrounding area, Forest Hill, is a really, really interesting and vibrant neighbourhood in London. There are loads of cafes, bars, pubs, and independent shops for you, and businesses for you to visit. So definitely spend a good amount of time exploring the area once you're done. If you're up for a drink, I would recommend the Sylvia Post or the Signal. The Sylvia Post is located in an old post office and has quite a night. You can go and actually sit in some of the vaults and have a drink, which is pretty awesome. If you would rather go for a walk, you can look around the gardens, and the museum itself is located along the Green Chain Walk, which is one of the South London walks, which is up on the TfL website. Anyway, if you have visited this museum and I've missed something, please share your ideas below. If you go after watching this video, it'd be absolutely great to hear from you. Anyway, until next week, make sure you're looking after yourself, you're staying free, and you're being kind. I'll see you in our video next week. See ya.